Sure, you can say he killed him. That's what he did.
On March 6th, a black man from Innisfil, Edward Essue, was killed during a traffic stop.
I feel terrible for his family, his parents. If you're afraid for your life facing an unarmed man, you're in the wrong business. And I would suspect that, like this investigation, when it was just they're trying to keep it under the radar.
Essue was not driving. A white woman was taken into custody under suspicion of impaired driving. After she was removed from the scene, Essue was left alone with police. He allegedly tried to run. Police used a taser and he died. The incident left many questions unanswered. To find answers, we spoke with community members, including members of the black community, about the incident.
Did he commit a crime? No. Okay, being in a passenger seat means the stop was for the lady.
Yeah.
So he is not required to hand over his ID or anything. He's a passenger. Why you would get up and run, I don't know. But if you talk about lack of trust or fear,
Their reactions.
sure you can say he killed him. That's what he did. If I had a taser and I shot somebody and they died after going to the hospital, what would they say to me? He just died?
Their experiences with police.
My son, this was many years ago, he went to Innisfil High School. And he told me, he came home and he said, well, that seems strange. I said, what happened? He says, well, the policeman called me over. I said, why? He says, well, he asked me where I was going and what I was doing and if I'd ever been in trouble. And I was shocked.
Their expectations.
Yeah, well, they're not going to. I mean, you cannot expect somebody of a Euro descendant. It's not in their mindset. I mean, I would suspect that, like this investigation, when it was they're trying to keep it under the radar, right?
And how police and politicians, including Mayor Alex Nuttall, should have responded and still could respond.
I mean, I empathize with them in the sense that you cannot know what others have experienced. You can't live it, right? Like I understand I grew up in this province, right? I grew up in this, right? So none of it surprises me. As a citizen, do we know the name of the policeman?
I don't think so, no.
Exactly. Do we know the procedures?
It's investigation.
But did he follow procedure? Is that the procedure you use to chase somebody? You stun them? You don't chase them? I mean, there's the questions, Is he still on the beat? Have there been any other instances of him using his weapon in that manner? Yeah. How many years has he been on the job? All these are very reasonable questions. Because if he's going to kill somebody for running away, what's he going to do? An unarmed man running away. Or what happened? Did they call him to stop and he stopped and turned around and they were afraid for their lives and they stunned him? He's unarmed. If you're afraid for your life facing an unarmed man, you're in the wrong business.
The following is our interview with a community member, Michael Mings. So on March 6th, Barrie police conducted a traffic stop at Dunlop Street.
Right.
And there were two people in the car, a 25-year-old female driver who was white and 29-year-old male passenger, so who was black. Mm-hmm. She was driving.
Right.
and after they did, they found out that she was driving under influence,
Okay.
and then she was taken to the, I guess, to the police station, and then there was this 29-year-old black man.
Mm-hmm.
He fled the uh,
Like
fled.
the scene. The
He
scene.
fled. He fled the scene. 29-year-old black man. He fled the scene. There was a chase, and then police used a taser,
Mm-hmm.
and then he died. He was killed
Mm-hmm.
in an interaction with police. And we are Simcoe Community Media. We are reaching out to various community members in Barrie and try to understand the whole situation, and also police and Barrie Council and government's response to the whole incidents. So just starting off with before starting out with the incidents, and I just wanted to understand if you personally had any experiences, interaction with police, both positive and negative, and what has been your experience, you or your family member, you want to share?
Personally, nothing, like traffic ticket or my son. This was many years ago. He went to Innisfil High School, and in order to get to where we live in Tamarack Woods, he had to cross through the Ellendale recreational parking lot. And he told me, he came home and he said, "Well, that seems strange." I said, "What happened?" He says, "Well, the policeman called me over." I said, "Why?" He says, "Well, he asked me where I was going and what I was doing, and if I'd ever been in trouble." And I was shocked and infuriated, angry. So that incident, I'll never forget, right? To the point that a few years later, there was a New Year's New Year's Day event where you could talk, meet the mayor and the police chief were there, and you could go and shake hands and drink cranberry juice. And I told the chief of police about what had happened, and he said that was very unfortunate. And I said, "Well, that wasn't unfortunate. I mean, attitude reflects leadership. I mean, that man learned it from somebody, and that goes up the chain to you." So, but what's he going to say? If you're a police chief, man, you can see your pension getting close, and you're not going to mess it up now. So, and what are you going to do anyways about it?
So how did you feel when the police chief said it was unfortunate? How did you feel about
How did
the
I
response?
feel about it? It was what can only be expected. He's a politician. You don't become police chief by being a policeman. You you're a politician. You're a politician of the police. So, I just wanted to make my point to him that, that my son represented the city playing soccer, and wanted to make sure that, that I knew that none of his kids did anything like that. So, who was representing the city well? It wasn't his kids, it was mine. So, that's petty, but sometimes you got to be petty to make a point. It's to be expected. You cannot live in this country, in this town, and any interaction that, the story of the man, why did he run? That's a good question. But, if he was running, there is the question, none of the cops could catch him? They can't run that fast. You're not running that fast when you're running, unless you're sprinting. Unless, you know what I mean? If you are a sprinter, then you're going to get away from somebody. But if you're a cop in decent shape, you should be able to catch somebody. I mean, that's part of your training, isn't it? So pulling out a taser, for me, is just a sign of laziness. If you know the suspect is going in this direction, you can't have a cop go around the corner. You don't know the city well enough to cut him off. You don't have a description of him. I mean, in Japan, you know, if a car speeds off, and instead of having a high-speed pursuit, they just shoot it with paintballs. Easy to find, you know. There's no, but, you know, give a man a gun, he wants to shoot it. Give a man a taser, he wants to use it. I mean, it's not, it is in their nature, right? It is in their nature. They have recourse to violence for performance of their duties, and they use it. But there are other ways. You can't tell me there aren't other ways. I mean, Barrie isn't that big. This isn't a labyrinth. If it happened on Dunlop Street.
Didn't happen on Dunlop Street, yeah.
Okay, man, how many streets are off Dunlop Street? I mean, it's not hard. Drive around. I'll run after him. You drive. He can only come out in so many places. Do you have to tase the guy? Especially when he had nothing to do with the incident.
And then also, you know, what do you have to say about why he was trying to run away, even though he had nothing to do with it?
Who cares? Who cares? Unarmed man running away. Catch him and say, well, what's going on? Were you going to charge him with running away from doing nothing? Where's the crime? There is no crime.
Does it also say something about the trust that if a white woman is there, you know, she has been taken, you know, this black man he has nothing to do with it, but he's just alone with the police and just, you know, you are scared, like, you know, especially like even I am, like, you know, if I see a police, like if I'm pulled over, there is no trust.
I think I mean, to the point of running away, to your point of not having trust. I mean, I take them individually, right? Individually. I was trying to back up, and I dinged the vehicle, and it was right where the lady whose son, she killed her son, and then she tried to kill herself. Yeah. So the policemen had it cordoned off, or the tow truck driver was there, and they were blocking the way. I couldn't get to Bayview Drive, and what's going on? And I backed up, and I dinged this car, and so I got the check, and we exchanged insurance. But the tow truck driver, and there's a policeman in another vehicle. And the tow truck driver was just yelling and screaming, "You should know how to drive." No. Like, he was amped up because he's beside a cop, and he thought that he could, you know, make
he started yelling at you?
Yes. So I know. I just walked up to him and said, you know, like, what? Why are you yelling? Why are you yelling? Mm-hmm. And then the policeman said, well, there's the investigator. We're just towing this vehicle, and that's why the road's blocked. And I said, well, thank you, Constable, for explaining that to me. I appreciate your politeness, which brought him down a notch, right? So, like I said, you know, I take people as we interact, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have any preconceived notions. And I grew up here. I mean, not in Barrie, but I was born and raised in Ontario. So, born and raised in a town that was, you know, there would be our family, the Greenwoods, the Saunders, you know, that's it. So I am used to, like I think it's tragic for a man to die for running away. No crime. I mean, that's, I don't know, that's just in the realm of I don't know the degrees of it, but manslaughter, second degree murder, that's what that is. Or, yeah, manslaughter through body harm, whatever. I don't know the terms. I'm not a lawyer, but right?
Do you think it should be treated as
Manslaughter.
a manslaughter?
Yeah. Did he commit a crime? No.
He was on the passenger seat. Yeah.
Okay. Being in a passenger seat means the stop was for the lady.
Yeah.
So he is not required to hand over his ID or anything. He's a passenger. Now, why you would get up and run, I don't know. But if you can talk about lack of trust or fear, but like I said, the policeman killing him, because that's what they did. He died of his injuries caused by the police. The police killed him, right? That is, well, it's tragic and it's wrong. I mean, the police have all day, every day in this area, in this town, to know the back roads, the front roads, the side roads, the alleys, contingency plans for everything. And you're going to tell me that when somebody breaks out in a run, your contingency plan is to shoot him with a taser. That's your plan? That's not a good plan.
So this incident was discussed, not really discussed, but was mentioned in March 19th
Okay.
police board meeting. And what Police Chief Rick Johnston said was, he just gave the details about the incident. He said at approximately 3 a.m. on Friday, March 6th, police conducted traffic stop on Dunlop Street West, gave the location for a suspected impaired driver. 25-year-old female driver was arrested, charged with operation while impaired, blood alcohol concentration over 80, and the 29-year-old male passenger fled. We still keep the male a short distance away as a result of an interaction between male and the police. The male was transported to local hospital in serious condition, and both their mandate and bill now be investigated. So after the interview with Michael Mings, we had an opportunity to get some clarification from Barrie Police Chief Rick Johnston and Mayor Alex Nuttall on April 17th. Johnston made clear that under Ontario's Special Investigations Unit Act, once the SIU investigates an incident, police are legally prohibited from publicly discussing it.
So, as you can appreciate, this being a Special Investigations Unit, my commentary, and even in response to any questions, that investigation is ongoing, and I'm prohibited from walking into that, as you're well aware. The challenge we face in this city is no different than any other city in Ontario. Crime does exist, and how we respond to it as a community, with community partners, with our government, it matters.
When there's criminal activity and the police have to get involved, it is always going to be a difficult situation, and one that is going to create very difficult circumstances. And I can tell you the Barrie Police never want to lose somebody, ever, 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 ever. Chief's right. There's vulnerable populations across the city, in every city, okay? I grew up as maybe amongst the most vulnerable in our city. And I can tell you that the interactions that I had with the police services when they were driving past my government supplied unit out, at the park, were ones that always provided a good presence for me, like a stability for me.
However, there were other incidents involving minority communities that were not discussed during Barrie Police Board meetings. One of such incident involved Indian family whose garage was burned and the message "Go home" was written on it. This incident happened in 2024. We reached out to the entire council and the police chief about it, but only heard from Ward 8 councillor Jim Harris, whose ward the incident occurred in. And police chief responded to us March this year, almost 2 years after the incident. This incident does not appear to have been discussed at any Barrie Police Board meeting, even though there were no restrictions on discussion. Also on April 17, we asked Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall about minority communities' concern. The program, the question was about, you mentioned how you benefited, but when it comes to racialized youth, the experience is very different with the police as we have seen in this experience. And another thing, in the past you have in the police board meeting, you talked about certain instances. There was one Georgian mall robbery. You talked about how the perpetrator was from out of Barrie, but in this particular instances, there wasn't any discussion taken place. So the concern of racialized community is there's a focus on certain crimes in Barrie where the victims are white. And when it comes to victim or racialized community, there is not much discussion or concern. That's one of the follow-up I did with Rick Johnson and that was 2 years back. Indian family's garage and car was burned, and I had to wait almost 2 years from police to get a response. And still, there has been no action taken. I know this process takes time. So these are.
So I think that there's I'm not going to say those concerns aren't valid, and I don't know all of the concerns are or aren't valid, but I think there is an appropriate place for us to deal with that, which would be like when we're having a police board meeting.
Nuttall said these issues are discussed at board meetings. However, even after that, no discussion took place at April meeting. Now back to the interview with Michael Mings. And then in the past, so this they talk under spatial, I think they call it spatial instances. And then in the past, it was I think Jan 22nd meeting, and then Chief Johnston talked about 3 instances. One was Georgian Mall robbery.
Right.
5 suspects arrested. Then one was child was found deceased in Barrie. Child's mother has been charged with first-degree murder. You said that's
right.
That's around where you live.
Yep.
And then there also third instance was traffic stop resulted in seizure of loaded firearm, knives and cash, and 2 suspects from Toronto. So when he talked about these 3 instances, so in the board meeting, board members, 2 board members are usually from City of Barrie, which is Mayor Alex Nuttall, Deputy Mayor Rob Thompson, and then 2 are appointed by the province. One is Arif Khan, and another is
Lynn Strawn.
Yeah, and then of course Barrie board chair Ferguson. So Mayor Alex Nuttall asked about only one instance where I think there's a Georgian Mall robbery, and then he asked about where these robbers were from.
Right.
And that was the only case discussed, and they didn't discuss child was found deceased, right. And the only question was where these people were from. So they can ask questions,
right?
And they can choose what questions they can ask about the instances.
But politically, you need to make sure that people understand that anything bad that happens in Barrie comes from abroad. Politically, that's. What else are you going to do? You can chase the guy down, you can tackle him, you can handcuff him. And when you find out he had nothing to do with anything, let him go, say, I'm sorry, and move along. They killed him. They killed him. He died of his injuries because they stunned him with a stun gun. I mean, you don't have to watch Law and Order to figure that out. I mean,
and even as a reporter, I grapple with how to talk about the instance, because when I read the other media, it's always he died, but there is a difference. You can't say police killed him, but he was killed.
Sure, you can say he killed him. That's what he did. if I had a if I had a taser and I shot somebody and they died after going to the hospital, what would they say to me? He just died? They would say, hey, Michael, you're under arrest. Any plans this weekend? You shouldn't have any because you're going to be in jail for a long time. No, that's what they did.
Do you think the incidents would have unfolded in a different way if it was a white person?
I think, obviously, him running didn't help. That said, I come back to the same, yes, it's 3 a.m. You know, even, yeah, no, would they have tasered him? I don't know. But the fact that they did not chase him down says a lot to me.
So how do you think, you talked about how the incidents should have been handled, but how do you think, after the incident, how do you think the police should have, the police chief or the board or, the council, the mayor, how they should have handled and approached this whole incidents?
I mean, I'm not in their place. I don't have the training.
But as a citizen,
as a citizen, do we know the name of the policeman?
I don't think so, no.
Exactly. Do we know the procedures?
It's investigation.
But did he follow procedure? Is that the procedure you use to chase somebody? You stun them? You don't chase them? I mean, there's the questions, Is he still on the beat? Have there been any other instances of him using his weapon in that manner? Yeah. How many years has he been on the job? All these are very reasonable questions. Because if he's going to kill somebody for running away, what's he going to do? An unarmed man running away. Or what happened? Did they call him to stop and he stopped and turned around and they were afraid for their lives and they stunned him? He's unarmed. If you're afraid for your life facing an unarmed man, you're in the wrong business. There were two policemen, Barrie policemen, years ago that were stabbed with a knife, right? And I don't think they shot. Because they didn't want to, obviously, but I don't know the exact particulars, but I do remember that case. But you're talking about an unarmed man. If he was running, that means they zapped him in the back. And if he was stopped, they don't know how to approach somebody. I mean, just the fact that if look, sir, you're not under arrest. Why did you run? I was afraid. I don't know. It could be anything, right? Who knows?
And what about, because there was one in the past, there was one incident in Brampton where they found out, 25 students were living in one house in Brampton, not in Barrie, and then Mayor Alex Nuttall mentioned that instance.
Of course he would.
But do you think how should have they talked about this instance, especially addressing the Black community and their concerns, because we know about the police violence, especially when it comes to Black and Indigenous communities in Canada?
Yeah, well, they're not going to. I mean, you cannot expect somebody of a Euro descendant. It's not in their it's not in their mindset, right? It is, their mindset is this country is the baseline of your descendancy. So to call out people living in Brampton or to minimize what happened here, you know, there was, you know, I remember this instance. There was a policeman that outside of a mall that beat a man, right? Because he felt, I don't know, disrespected, however you want to put it. He ended up spending a year in jail and being released from the police department. But I mean, the level of, you know, to prove, I mean, there was videotape of this guy doing it. And still, you know, 1 year and you're out. You know, that's, so there's always the police enforce, policemen, their term comes from a policy man. They enforce policy man, the policy. And they are, their loyalty is to the politicians, to the government, right? They are the civilian arm of government. And this, yeah, the arm of, they're armed. And so a government official entrusts these people to enforce their laws, their policies. So there's always going to be a natural collusion between the two. I mean, that's just, you know, if I hire you to guard my bike and somebody comes near my bike and you beat him up, well, the guy you must have had a reason to do that, right? You're going to defend. I'm going to defend you because I pay you to look after my bike. I pay you to enforce the laws that I create for either the betterment of society or to enrich the government. That's your loyalty is mutual. So, I mean, I would suspect that, you know, like this investigation, when it was able just, they're trying to keep it under the radar, right? I feel terrible for his family, his parents, but how many times, I don't know if this is the typical question, but the police will ask you, is this car yours, or where are you going? And I mean, they're not there to help you, and unfortunately that's what he learned.
I just also want to talk about the incidents where a garage of an Indian family was burned down, and then there was a message written, go home. That happened in around May 2024, and I reached out to the police department immediately after. I believe I also reached out to mayor and city council. I never heard back from police or council. I think I heard back from Councillor Jim Harris.
Okay.
I never heard back from mayor. Never heard back from Barrie police. Right after this incidents happened, I heard back the next day from Barrie police about that. So almost 2 years after the incidents happened, and no arrest has been made in this incident, and I don't believe that incident also was discussed during the police police meeting. So as somebody who is immigrant from India, for all the immigrants, especially related to the incidents, from South Asian community, they need to know if something like this happens.
Right.
So they can be alert about it, and they also need to know if police is doing something about it, right? So it's if there is no discussion about the instances like this,
right,
and then there is a discussion about Brampton, people
right,
living,
right,
students living in, and
right,
they are not doing anything criminal. They are living in
right,
a house. They are
right,
not harming anybody.
right, right,
they are doing what they are doing to that particular house, to a private property.
right, right,
Limited
right,
within the confines of those
right,
3-4 rooms.
right, right.
And that becomes a point of discussion that to be discussed in the city council, but not issues like this where people are being killed, people's property is damaged, people are asked to go back home, people living in fear. So those issues are not important. That's the message. So these issues, the issue of non-white community is not important in Barrie. So that's the message that I get when I try to cover this event, when I try to reach out to
Right.
the police, I try to reach out to mayor and council and
Clubs, the Boys and Girls Club. It's high school all over again, but that's what this is. That's what this town is. I mean, this town. I mean, I'm not surprised because I just can't emphasize this. Your descendant, and you think of your descendants. They believe in myths and lies. And the myth and lie is that this country or this community baseline must remain Euro-descendant, white. And if it doesn't, they fear, right? So the only way to make sure that theme is carried on is to continually point to, for example, the people living in the house, as you see, that's what could happen if they came here. That's what could happen if they come here. And if if your house is damaged, and that's unfortunate too, that's sad, that's terrible. That the police aren't going. I mean, the police aren't going to. If somebody breaks into your house, they're going to tell you, and I know this for a fact. I had someone a policeman. They're going to tell you, somebody stole some items from your house. Go check out the pawn shops. Or here's an insurance number. Here's the document number for your insurance. They're not running around with dusting for fingerprints, and they don't do that. I mean, that's a myth, right? We like to believe that you pay taxes, police services. They don't do that. That's literally not their job. If somebody breaks into your house while you're there, that's a whole different story. But getting back to, I don't want to veer off topic, but it is this quiet maintaining of the myth. And until he or she could understand that your counterpoint to their ideas can make for a better community moving forward, it would be very frustrating, I can see from your perspective, because they don't want to have anybody saying anything. They don't. They've got a good thing running. They've got a good thing going. I mean,
just last question about about the police budget. It's around $80 million. Around 8.5% increase from the previous year. That was for this year's budget. So how, with respect to the police budget, which is a significant part of the total budget versus other social services?
More police doesn't equal less crime. Full employment means less crime. Housing means less crime. Social programs mean less crime. Free healthcare means less crime. Community means less crime. So, but as long as the mantra of more equals less crime, more police equals less crime, more police also equals less transparency. Because at the end of the day, not a whole lot to do. You're a policeman, what do you do on the night shift in Barrie? Everybody's asleep, man. All the businesses are closed. You can drive around industrial areas to make sure there are no break-ins. How long does that take you?
Just that, to that point, last year, police handled over 80,000 calls for service, but only 12% were actually in criminal nature.
Exactly.
Rest were noise complaint, traffic stop, ambulance assist.
Yep.
More than 7,000 charges laid, concentrated roughly 2,000 people, and less than 1% of those individuals were responsible for 20% of the total harm in the city.
Exactly.
So they have the information, There's a lot of talk from Police Chief Johnston, from Board Chair Ferguson that, they are very data driven and they have all this information that who to focus on.
Well, their game is statistics, right? That is their game. So like I said before, the current system is working for the current administration. And until there is a change towards, like I said, programs, full employment, healthcare, housing, it cannot change. Because, you look, every policeman gets paid how much? On average, 80, 90, upwards to 100,000.
Police has the most number of people in Sunshine List, in Barrie.
When you become a first-class constable, it's not bad for somebody with a high school diploma. Now they have bachelors in criminology and so on. But it's not going to change. And I would argue that the importance of community becomes important because they're, at the end of the day, they're not there to protect you. They are there to protect property, and they are there to, react to crime. They're not there to protect you. Never have been. It's never been their mandate. So, I don't want to get into myself growing up, and I don't have any stories to tell. My mother had me enrolled in every activity you can imagine, but I have.
Any last message you want to leave up in light of this particular instance, and then any expectations from
The
police or the city council?
I empathize with them in the sense that you cannot know what others have experienced. You can't live it, right? And I'm trying to gather my words, but I understand I grew up in this province, right? I grew up in this, right? So none of it surprises me. And,
do you have any hope that things will get better, change?
Well, the way things are currently is not designed to improve. If you have 200 policemen, you got to keep them busy. If you have, it's kind of like if you have employment and social programs and free healthcare and which we do to a degree. You need less policemen. You need less policemen. You need less staff sergeants. You need less constables. What are these people going to do? Right? If you have, in some societies, when a business, instead of being sold, it is put into like I forget the term of it, but it cannot be sold.
In a trust.
In a trust, yeah. And so all the profits, other than the operating expenses and enough to keep it going, they go into a public function. They might go to a hospital. They might go to a social program. They might do this, right? Other countries around the world have done this. But you see, when you have such investment in the community, then law enforcement becomes less necessary, right? Because they're with the community instead of being agents of politicians, of government, right? So until there is a shift away from this, because they have statistics, they give out tickets, all right, this is all revenue generating for the state, or in this case, for the Barrie City Council. So until that changes, so I'm always cautiously optimistic. I am, because anything can happen,
Yeah.
right?
And you can't live without being an optimist, then this world is just dark place.
Say again, sorry?
World will be just a dark place to live.
Right.
If there's no hope.
Right.
Okay.
So there you go.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you for your time.
No problem.
For Simcoe Community Media, I am Deepak Bidwai. This story was supported by the Local Journalism Initiative.